With The Amazing Spider-Man getting a reboot in the cinemas, he obviously has to have a game to tie in with it. But is it amazing or not so spectacular?
This isn't a retelling of the film's story, but follows on directly from the events of the film, so I guess there are some movie spoilers here. Although, I don't know how much of a spoiler it is to say that Spider-Man saves the day and gets the bad guy. I mean, that happens, sorry.
Yeah, but the basic gist of it is scientist Kurt Connors, aka the Lizard, has been defeated. His cross-species experiments at the Oscorp company are being scrapped by its new boss, Alistair Smythe, who is voiced by obscure voice actor Nolan North.
No game is complete without Nolan.
Follow me. I trust you'll keep everything you see in the strictest confidence.
But then Spider-Man manages to accidentally cause what's left of Connor's cross-species experiments to break out of Oscorp, and Smythe then releases his army of robots to save the day. But of course, armies of robots have a habit of going wrong.
Movie tie-in games often suffer from short development cycles and also script inconsistencies between the movie and the game. But in this case, it's actually much better than your average movie game, and because it's set after the film itself, it freed up the developer to do a bunch of different things with the story. It's been 8 years since the excellent Spider-Man 2, and since then we've mostly been confined to swinging about in tiny corridors with Spider-Man games. But finally, we get to return to an open-world Manhattan. And heck, I think this is the best swinging Spider-Man has ever had. Once I got out of that first mission and I was into the open world, I just swung about for an hour without even doing anything else.
Yeah, it's almost worth playing just for that experience, isn't it? It's such a wonderful sense of freedom. The way his body flings and spins in the sunlight and he launches over and around buildings, it's not quite as complex as other open-world superhero games like Prototype or Infamous, but I don't know, it's just that simple joy. Fans of the old game might be a little bit sad at the simplified web slinging here. You can just hold right trigger and swing around with your web connected to invisible ceilings in the sky. I know it works to create that fluidity, but I think it's really gonna bug some people, Bajo.
Yeah, I think so too, but it's a trade-off, isn't it? I don't think Spidey has ever looked this cinematic. Plus, one of the biggest achievements of this game is you can be swinging through this open world in between lots of different buildings with really short, narrow passageways, and you never hit the walls. The game just knows where you want to go. Amazing. Plus, I liked how every now and then if you swing past a civilian, they yell out something. Or take a photo.
I'm just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Vacation.
There's also lots of comic books to collect, and this reminded me a lot of Crackdown's orbs because you can just get lost for hours. Ooh, there's a comic book.
Wow, look at this.
There's another one.
Interesting.
Hey, get back here, flying comic book.
All right.
And best of all, they unlock actual comic books.
Yeah, they're a great distraction. I think this game is at its best, though, when you're in those big boss battles in the open world. They're so spectacular.
Just like David and Goliath. Hey, come back! I'm pretty sure he's talking to you.
I also really liked the new Web Rush feature, which lets you stop time for a few seconds, look around, and then sling off in another direction. Or you can even just tap the bumper to fly off without stopping time. It's a great way to move around and find parts of the environment that you can use to your advantage. You can also just tap the other bumper to retreat instantly from a fight and give yourself some breathing room. They've thought really hard about how to make it easy to move as Spidey, and it just works.
Let's talk about the combat. I think it's fair to say they've taken a fairly hefty chunk of inspiration from the Batman games, right down to the little glowy lights above Spidey's head, letting him know that he needs to perform a counter. And of course, Spidey doesn't have any gadgets, so it's all web-based attacks, which you can upgrade. Do you think it worked, Hex?
Well, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a different move for the series, but once you start upgrading your abilities, things start looking pretty spectacular.
Want to taste your own medicine? Come on!
I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just think it works really well for Batman because he's all about waiting for that attack and then countering it, and that kind of cool, calm, collected gameplay really suits that counter-focused attack style. But when I think of Spider-Man, I think he gets in there, he uses crazy abilities, he's flinging people around, and then he gets out.
Yeah, but I don't know, that Batman formula is a formula that works really well for games. And Spider-Man does have some similarities to Batman. You know, he crawls up the sides of walls and does stealthy kinds of things. It's quite satisfying creeping around and stringing up all the guards one by one.
Sneak through the shadows, Spidey. Get out of here alive. Enjoy some time alone.
But that stealth camera, Barjo, I just never quite got used to it. And since it goes into first person and down becomes up and up becomes down, it just, it's so disorienting.
Yeah, I also didn't enjoy those indoor missions at all. That open world is just so good and so much fun to fight in and be in. All the indoor stuff felt like I was just being put in a box. They reused levels too. The worst was when you had to get a sample off Vermin, and after chasing him through the sewer for 20 minutes and beating him, he runs away and then runs right back into another sewer, and you basically do it all again.
Yeah, look, overall I think for a movie game it does quite well for itself. It has some issues, but you know, I had a really good time, so I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, for all the things I didn't like, I was just so happy to have an open world Spider-Man game again, and just, it's just so fun swinging around, so I'm gonna give it 8. Next up, Tiny Power.